Welcome everyone to Mom Street USA. My name is Jackie, aka Wishes Mama, and my wonderful co-host next to me here is Kate, aka the Disney Cicerone. We are so excited that you're here with us this evening. We are talking all things moderate level resorts. So we are hoping to give you guys lots of really great information about those kind of mid-level resorts. At both Disney World and Disneyland to give you guys some additional options for your stays.
Yeah, and I even found just a tiny little bit of history / fun facts that I'm just going to toss out there for a few of them too, just because I'm like, I couldn't help myself.
Right. Yeah, it's perfect.
Jackie, I found things.
And it fits so perfectly. We can't, if you found it, we have to share it.
I know. They're just a couple things because we have
Yeah.
so much information just about the resorts, and I want to make sure
Yeah.
that we mostly talk about that because that's what the show is about. But, it doesn't hurt to have a few fun things you can tell your friends and family when you're, visiting somewhere. Did you know that this place needs some?
Absolutely. I think my husband got sick of me doing that on our last trip. He was like, oh, okay. One of those like pity listens.
He's like,
He's like, yeah, okay, sure. There were a couple things that he was like, oh, okay, that is really interesting. I was like, all right, I got one. I got one or two.
That's so funny.
It's good.
Elliot actually listens pretty well. I think he actually appreciates it for the most part.
I think my husband just listens to me talk so much during our Disney trips because it's constant. It's Genie Plus and it's, the little fun facts and it's hidden Mickeys and it's all that kind of stuff. So he's just like, okay, we're good. No, he's a good sport about it. And he enjoys most of it, but some of it is like stuff that he just really doesn't have the need to hear.
Yeah.
That
like
I think is fascinating.
Elliot can't do details. He's like, he gets lost in the details when I'm like, first we're going to do this and then we're going to do this. And this is why we're going to do this. And he's like, I'm out. But if I tell him like history, this is why this is like this. He's all interested in that. So.
Yeah. I have taught Andrew most of kind of my ways of planning. So he does pretty well and can kind of read in between the lines whenever I tell him we're doing stuff. And he is like my right-hand man with Genie Plus because there were a couple mornings at Epcot we were doing virtual queue and we were doing a lightning lane at the same time. So I was like, okay, here's your job. And he was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah. One thing at a time. It's like, that's Elliot's thing. He's like, just give me one task. One. Yeah. Don't tell me what's after it. Just one. Right. I was like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So let's jump in to our moderate resort information. As we go, Kate and I have not stayed everywhere. So if you guys have stayed these places and have information or can help answer questions about them, please feel free. We have figured it out that we are in the same chat tonight. So that's super exciting. So we can all see each other's comments. So be sure that you, chat with each other and help answer questions and things like that. So that way we can get the information going here. Kirk, he wasn't lost. He just needed a little bit more guidance. At Epcot, he was like, because he was being very sweet and very kind because he was like, I don't want to do rides and stuff without you, and I don't want, to do these experiences without you. So it was more like, what am I allowed to do that you're not going to be upset with me doing? And I was like, take a scavenger hunt, go. And it was perfect. It ended up perfect. So it was good.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes. But there were some moments where he was like, what am I supposed to do with them?
Yeah. Yeah, and we do have the same chat tonight. We're trying out something new where we're doing this multi-guest setting so we can see, we're all in the same place together. How great is that? Yay. So we can see, everybody can see everybody else. So it's so great.
Yeah. So yeah, Kirk, we figured it out, sort of. So we're going to try it and see how it looks and see what happens afterwards and all that. So we'll give you the info after we kind of figure this all out.
Yeah, it's a little guinea pig moment here.
Exactly.
Just like Disneyland was when it first opened. So I feel like, we're right on course.
Yes, it's very fitting. Okay, right. Moderate resorts. That's what we're supposed to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, I know. Get distracted.
So it's all good. It was Kirk's fault that time. We can just blame it on him.
It's always Kirk's fault.
So let's jump in.
Love you, Kirk.
Before we get to the official official moderate resorts. I do want to mention, for those of you who were here with us 2 weeks ago, when we talked about the value level resorts, we did talk a little bit about how Art of Animation kind of bridges that gap between value and sort of moderate. So I did just want to throw that out there and remind you that while it's considered a value resort, Art of Animation, really their price point is closer to kind of that moderate level, especially if you're looking at suites, things like that. So we had lots of good information about that, like I said, 2 episodes ago. So take a look at our YouTube or listen to the podcast if you want information on that one. But that being said, no, Kirk, you cannot insult my co-host. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, so let's jump into what Disney considers to be their moderate level. So I know I've seen opinions already flying in the chat tonight about what is considered moderate, what is not. I am going straight off of what the Disney website calls their moderate level resorts.
I know. There's always opinions for this too.
Yes.
You know, it's like,
and prices range.
Points. Yeah.
Exactly. So it can be really tricky, and sometimes you may get these resorts at closer to a value cost if you're going during off season and they've got deals running. So, you know, this is kind of just your ballpark idea. Again, like I mentioned in the value one, the value episode that we did, I looked kind of like peak season, like first week of April. Is kind of the price point that I researched to keep it on par with what we did for the values. So typical price range, Lauren, is a good question. So for the values, we kind of looked at up to about $250, maybe tiptoeing into $300. But again, that kind of butts up right against some of these moderate level prices that I'm going to give you. So it fluctuates a lot. When we were looking at value prices, the All-Stars were right around $225. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're looking. But again, that's peak season. A lot of the times you can get them cheaper, but I'm kind of trying to give you guys a realistic idea because I know a lot of us, especially moms, we're traveling around school and we're doing it during breaks. So it may be spring break, fall break, winter break, summer break, those types of things. So trying to give you guys kind of realistic info for that. So I'm giving these in price order from least expensive to most expensive. So the first one that I've got on this list is Coronado Springs. So the Coronado Springs Resort, average price, you're looking around $338 a night. And that is straight from the Disney website, like I said. That's without any discounts, without any deals, without any of that kind of stuff. So that is the lowest price point for moderate resorts that they have on their website. It has 3 different sections. You've got ranchos, cabanas, and then the casitas, which we'll talk about in a minute. But your standard rooms, thank you, Kate. Your standard rooms are going to sleep 4 people there. One of the highlights that I saw when I was looking at this resort was that their food options at this resort are crazy. They have like 10 different options. Now, they're not all going to be full, options. Some of them are more like pool bars and things like that, but 10 different options just at a glance alone on the website. So tons of food options at this resort for sure. 3 pools. One of them's got a water slide, which is always a perk. So those moderate level resorts are going to have the water slides. They're going to have more interactive kind of things around their pools and playground areas. So you can see kind of on the map that Kate's got pulled up there, the different sections.
Because I can't flip it.
I'm sorry.
It is what it is. It's fine. It'll be backwards today.
Yes, it'll be fine. But you guys get the idea of kind of the layout of the resort. Yes, it is a fairly large resort. Overall, I mean, it's hard to compare. We were looking at value resorts before. They all got their different sizes. The value resorts tend to be more compact from what I've noticed, just my own personal observation. So Kate's showing the main pool area with the slide.
So the dig site, I think, is what it's called.
Yes, yes. So each section of Coronado Springs has its own pool. So no matter which section you're in, you're going to have a pool nearby. It just may not be that main pool that Kate is showing, and that is where the water slide is at that resort. Pretty much standard amenities, nothing too crazy as far as offerings there. They've got kind of your standard movies and playgrounds and activities and things like that for your kiddos.
I'm just trying to help while you're talking.
You're good. I'm just catching up on the chat.
In the middle. The dig site's in the middle. You can see that big pool, and it's backwards, but it's the one that has the 3 words there in the center. That's where the pool is that I was just showing.
Yeah. So further away from some of the areas of the resort, but close, kind of centrally located as much as it can be with the extra water kind of on that resort property there.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning, especially since we're talking about the size of the resort, that this one, like a lot of these moderates, has, if you're taking Disney transportation, the only transportation that's available at this resort is bus transportation, or you can drive yourself. But bus transportation, there's actually 4 bus stops. You can kind of see the little black boxes on all the sides. It's like, basically it's like north, south, east, west. And those are the bus stops. So it can often take a very long time to get back to your resort at the end of the day. Sometimes it's hard to get on buses because the bus is already full when it comes and it might not have space for your whole family. So that's always something I think I would consider is the transportation options. And so that, if you're going to stay at one of these, I probably would recommend driving, honestly, yourself, because the buses are such a headache when you have multiple bus stops like that.
Yeah, especially if you're thinking about strollers or any of that type of stuff, it can definitely get tricky. So,
yeah, and this is what the inside of the rooms look like.
Yep, so pretty standard rooms. A little bit bigger space-wise than the Value, but they still have pretty much an identical setup. You're just going to feel like there's a little bit more space kind of between beds, between the end of the beds and the dresser, those types of things. Little tiny details that make enough of a difference that, like, when we stayed at a moderate level, we noticed the difference. So from someone who always pretty much stays at Value to then stay at moderate, there was a difference there as far as the space inside the room.
Yeah. And I agree, Kirk, you can use the lobby buses. Sometimes that is easier, but sometimes you have to walk really far to get to them, depending on where your room is. So that's the downside of that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
We'll get to Caribbean Beach in their buses. That's coming. Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah. Lauren, so some of the benefits of staying on property, Lem hit a couple of them. Transportation options are definitely huge because if you have flown down and taken like a shuttle to the park, you don't have to have a car if you choose not to. We talked a lot about that in a previous episode, kind of getting to Disney and how that works. So lots of good information in that. I don't want to repeat all of it because a lot of you guys were probably there for that episode. But that's definitely a huge advantage. And then, early access, half-hour early access right now to the parks as it stands currently. So that is a huge benefit of staying on property as well. The other thing that I can think of is if you're planning on using Genie Plus services, you have to be on property to be able to book the fancy rides, as Barbie calls them, the individual lightning lanes at 7 a.m. You have to be on property to be able to book those at 7. Otherwise, you're waiting until park open. So a couple little things as far as that goes. So at Coronado Springs, go ahead.
Sorry. And we also have talked about too, about how you just get the benefit of staying in the Disney bubble, so to speak. So you don't have to like leave the property and then kind of go back to the real world. For some people that really does make or break their vacation. So that's another benefit, I think, of staying on property. Everything's very themed and everything's so Disney. So
and you don't have to break the magic. You don't go outside of that kind of theming. I feel like it makes it a little bit more magical.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, you're good. I was just trying to, like you said, we've got so much to get through. I don't want to like lose track. So the 2 of the sections there are going to have standard rooms at Coronado. The Casitas section I want to talk just briefly about it. Those are more suites that you're going to find on the property. They're going to sleep more. So they're going to sleep 6 to 8 people depending on the configuration and the price point you're looking at. Now, let's talk about the price point because we are talking about moderate level resorts. Those suites, to me, in my opinion, are more of a deluxe level offering because they are upwards of $1,000 or more a night for those bigger spaces.
For sure, deluxe.
So despite Coronado itself being in that moderate category, you do have those suites that are kind of that higher price point. And that also includes the suites in the Gran Destino Tower as well, kind of in that same boat. So any of those
this is
suites,
the lobby of that. Yeah.
Nice. Yes, I believe you are correct. So any of those suites that you find at Coronado are going to be closer to $1,000 or more a night. Again, like I said, these prices come from like the first week of April next, like 2023 is where I was kind of searching. So that's kind of the idea for those. That is a newer resort or a newer section of the resort, if I'm not mistaken. The tower, I think, was built within the last, 7 or 8 years, maybe?
I think so. And
yeah.
What was I going to say? So the Gran Destino Tower, the name, sorry, the gift sound is throwing me off. I'm like, whoa. So the Gran Destino Tower actually gets its name from something that is rooted in Disney history. And I was just reading recently in my Walt biography about how they worked with several famous artists throughout the years. And one of them was Salvador Dali. And they worked with him in 1945-46. They were going to do a cartoon based on some of his art. And so John Hench was working with him on something that was called Destino. And it got completely shelved during World War II because they basically were busy making a whole bunch of films for the war. So like most of Disney Studios' efforts went towards that instead. So they just kind of tucked it away on the shelf and didn't think about it until Roy E. Disney in 1999. He brought it back out, dusted it off and said, like, let's figure out what to do with this because they had storyboarded the whole thing. So they took this like kind of rough sketch of the storyboard and actually created a cartoon from it. And it was a short, I think it's 17 minutes long. And I went to a couple film festivals in 2003 and it did pretty well. So that's what the tower's name.
If it's 17 minutes long, that's a good length.
It's not feature length, but it's a fairly long thing. But yeah, so that's what the Gran Destino Tower is named after, is Destino by Salvador Dali and John Hench from 1945. So a little bit Disney history tied up in the name there, which most people maybe don't realize. And I was also going to mention that this resort, I think we have to mention that there's a convention center in this resort. And
yes.
That I would take that into consideration when you go, because there might be a whole bunch of conventioneers roaming around with their lanyards while you're on vacation. And if that's not the vibe you're looking for and not interested in, maybe there might be extra long lines for elevators and things like that when sessions let out. Just keep that in mind, that it is a kind of a convention center. It's the only Disney one, I believe, on property, give or take, depending on what you call convention space. But because I know that there's also the one that's at Swan and Dolphin, but it's not technically Disney. So, yeah, largest convention center on the East Coast.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely take that into consideration if that may be jarring or take you out of the magic, as we were speaking about earlier, being surrounded by the magic. That's definitely something to consider as well.
For sure. Yeah, and Kirk says, plus the concept of the original resort was folks were looking for the fountain of youth and gold, and they found the pyramid and stayed. So, yes, thank you for adding that, Kirk.
Yes, we appreciate
little
that.
History.
Yes.
Our facts. So thanks.
That's good. I love it. Yeah. So that's kind of a general overview of Coronado Springs. Again, that is kind of the cheapest of what Disney considers to be their moderate level resorts. So the next two that we've got on the list here, Port Orleans Riverside and Port Orleans French Quarter. are kind of like sister resorts, is what the term that I think of whenever I hear resorts like this. They, are right directly next to each other. And they share a lot of their amenities, things like that. So you'll kind of hear us mention that as we go through. You're painting a Mad Hatter hat? Okay.
Halloween's a coming.
I know, I guess so. So let's talk about Port Orleans Riverside. Again, in that first week of April kind of time frame, you're looking around $361 a night. For your standard rooms in Riverside. Now, Riverside does have kind of two different options for rooms. So you've got kind of just your standard room, but then you also have your royal guest rooms, which are like the princess rooms. You hear everyone refer to them as, I feel like, the princess rooms at Riverside. And those are going to run a little bit more because of that theming that you've got in those rooms and at that resort. So those are going to be closer to $415 a night. So kind of two different options there.
It really is the highest, though, because I think I've stayed there multiple times on both sides, and it really tends to trend more towards 250 to 3 max. So yeah, that absolutely is like high peak pricing for sure.
Yeah. And again, like I said, trying to give you guys a realistic idea of if you're traveling during peak season, these are the prices you may or may not pay. Again, like we've talked about in other episodes, chances are good Disney runs deals and discounts and things like that. So definitely if you're working with a travel agent or if you're booking yourself, keep an eye out for those. As far as food options, 4 different food options at Riverside that you have. Again, when I say 4, some of those include pool bars and things like that that you may run into. So thank you, Kate, for your lovely
and it doesn't really
assisting.
show food, but
no,
it's a map.
But
we got something.
It gives you an idea of kind of what you're looking at with those. The thing that I thought was impressive for a resort of this size, because it's not as big as Coronado, I feel like, but they've got 5 pools, which I thought was a really great feature of that resort. They've got 3 in the Alligator Bayou section and 2 in the Magnolia Bend section. So if you look on Kate's map, you can see.
This is Alligator
Bayou.
Yeah,
that top corner up there is going to be your Alligator Bayou section, and then the other side of the map
looks like H's.
Yes, they do look like H's. That's exactly what I was going to say. H's and U's, kind of.
Yeah.
Those are going to be your Magnolia Bend section. So there's 2 pools over there that you can see fairly clearly on the map. So if swimming and water is like your thing, that's a pretty awesome feature to have at that resort.
I agree, Kathy, that it is a lot of walking to buses depending on where you stay. Again, like it's like most of the rest of these moderate resorts, they have 4 bus stops. And so it depends on, like, it might be really close to your bus stop, but again, your bus might be full or it might take a long time to get to you. Certainly takes a long time to get back to your resort a lot of the times just because it has to make so many stops. So it's like I have done the buses there pretty much every time I've stayed just because I don't like to rent a car, but it is kind of a headache. So, and buses are the only transportation at this resort. And I will mention that the Alligator Bayou side is the only rooms that have a 5th person sleeper are on the Alligator Bayou side. So they're not on the Magnolia Bend side. But those are really great for a family of 5 because that's what we do. We're like, okay, we can stay in the one. We don't have to pay extra for another room or whatever, or a suite.
Right.
And we can have 5 people, which is really great.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Absolutely. Katie says, I loved having a pool right outside my room, and I was back in the back in the cheap rooms. Yeah, the pools are great there. The theming is exactly what you would expect it to be, I feel like, when you think Port Orleans and you think Riverside. So
I have some pictures. This one's Alligator Bayou. So this is the more kind of like out in the swamp, so to speak, area. Which it actually is quite lovely when you're in it, so I won't say it's like that. But this is Magnolia Bend. It feels ritzy, like from the outside. It's got fountains, and it's just gorgeous. And at night, it's beautiful. It's all alongside the Sasagula River, which of course is the native term for Mississippi, so that's why it's called that. And they had a really nice night shot. I wonder if I still have it somewhere.
Well, and I love the thing that I love about the Port Orleans resorts is the way that they have kind of their walkways set up. It just feels very themed, even down to like the bricks on the ground and, you know, the street signs and the street lamps and all that kind of stuff. It really feels like you're walking down the streets in New Orleans. Like it just feels that way, which was one of the things that I noticed about when we stayed there.
I had a little fun fact for the Alligator Bayou section. All the leaf imprints that are in the concrete, they made those by putting real leaves in the concrete and then just, cool. Washing them away or taking them off afterwards. So they're just real imprints of leaves, which I love that.
Very authentic for sure. It feels that way. The amenities at this resort and at French Quarter, like I mentioned before, are shared amenities. One of the really cool things that I found about this resort is they've got the horse-drawn carriages that you can book and take just a relaxing ride around. You can rent bicycles and those Surrey bikes that have like
Surrey bikes.
Yeah, that have like the little, I don't even know what you think. Like they have like the little covered
canopy,
yeah, on the back. So those are super, super fun. They're all right along that river, which is nice.
Okay, hold on. I think they're more fun in theory than in practice. Have you ever tried one of those with your family?
No,
especially with
not.
Kids.
I have not.
It's like, especially if you have kids, they're hard to pedal, and like the kids gotta like give up after the first like 2 minutes, and so it's just like you trying to like pedal your whole family. Just saying. I mean, they're fun. You'll remember it.
Yeah.
It's memorable.
Yeah. I feel like that would be a great family memory that you could take home after your trip.
It is. It's a memory.
Maybe the horse-drawn carriage maybe is the better way to go if you've got little kids that you don't think
more expensive.
will pedal those bicycles with you.
Never with kids that are supposed to pedal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
exactly.
Yeah. Kirk pointed out that Jim Corcus' book has the great story about the two brothers who fight and one retreats to live in the bayou, and that's why they have that. Yeah, I love that backstory. Thanks for throwing that in there.
Yeah, so that kind of gives you the idea of the two sections
and
of the resort.
They do have also I forgot to mention when I mentioned the river that there is water transportation to Disney Springs, which actually is some of my favorite water transportation on property when we've stayed there, because at night it's just peaceful and dark and quiet. And you have the loud sound of the motor and whatnot and like things, but I feel like it was actually fairly romantic. So it was a kind of a nice retreat for couples too. So, if you're getting away without the kids, it's a nice place to go.
Well, someday. And when we stayed at French Quarter, we took the boat to Disney Springs and my kids absolutely loved it. They thought it was the coolest thing that we could take this little boat. And, I was pointing out different stuff along the way and they were just, looking in the water and looking around. And it was so much fun for them to be on that boat to get to Disney Springs too. And we took it back when it was kind of dusk. It wasn't quite all the way dark when we came home that evening, but it was very, very cool. My kids still talk about it even now. So it definitely really, really cool.
Yeah.
Yes. Lauren, you can take the boat from Riverside and French Quarter both to Disney Springs.
Yeah, and I believe you can use each other's pools and stuff too. I think they treat them like sister resorts.
Yes.
So you can pretty much use any of the amenities at either one at any time. And beignets, of course, Lynn mentioned beignets. So if you're in Port Orleans, Riverside, you can walk over and get beignets over there in French Quarter, and you can go from French Quarter and go get some of the really great food that's over in Port Orleans.
Yep, absolutely. And if you take that walk, you can walk right along the river, which is kind of nice. They've got a nice path along there that you can walk if you choose to. There are other ways that you can maneuver through to get to where you're going, but that's definitely a fun way that you can get to where you want to be. Let's see. Okay, I think we talked about all that stuff. Do you want to talk about, you've got some notes on the best rooms?
Oh, yeah. I I scrolled too fast. Okay. So in the Magnolia Bend, usually what I'd say by the best rooms is that you want ones that are closer to like the lobby, food, big pool. Like that's usually in these moderate resorts, the places you want to go. Because even if you're on like the outskirts and you're like, oh, I'm near a bus stop though. I'm like, well, yes, but to get to virtually anything at that resort, you have to walk a long way. Sometimes it's 10 minutes plus, depending on what resort you're at. So it's not, it looks small on this little map, but it's not. It's actually pretty far. And this one is granted not as big as some of the other ones, but so you can see, like we said, the Magnolia Bend ones. You want to stay in the ones that are closer to like the main bridge that goes over to the river. So it's these green ones, not the red ones. The green ones, these are the Magnolia Bend ones that you want to stay in. It's Arcadian and Magnolia. And I've stayed in those ones multiple times and I've loved it. They're great. They go in that little bridge over the water as long as it's open and not under construction. And you can head right to the Old Man Island, I think is what it's called. And then head back to the lobby. So, and then there are preferred locations for Alligator Bayou. You can see their buildings 14, 15, 18, and 27. Those are those blue ones on this map. Now, if you don't want to pay for a preferred one, you'll just want to stay in the ones that are basically right behind them. And those ones are 16 and 17, because those will be the closest to all those amenities. You won't have to walk.
And you want to make sure you're paying attention to where those bridges are, because as you can see, that river runs straight through the middle. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what bridges you're taking. I've seen a couple people say, they've gotten lost walking around in Alligator Bayou many times. Yeah, Sharon, exactly.
Get out your map on your app so you know where to go.
Yep.
Yeah, so you want to stay somewhere near a bridge. Yeah.
Yep, you can see where those bridges are. So definitely take that into consideration whenever you are looking at what rooms you might want to request or having your travel agent request those. Pay attention to where those bridges run.
Yeah. So and we did talk about how to request rooms and stuff, and it's always a request. It's never a guarantee. So please, be kind to the cast members. If you're like, but I requested this and they couldn't accommodate it for whatever reason, just, always be understanding, because they're just doing their job and they're limited to by who's checking out and what's going on. And it's like a giant, someone told me it was like a big puzzle that they have to figure out where to put everybody, especially when it comes to a special request. So I always think it's very kind. I feel kind of like it's pixie dust when I get something that's close to my request, and just leave it there. Don't have expectations. Just accept that what is. What will be, will be. Que sera,
exactly. Exactly. Hope for the best and know that either way you're going to have a magical trip because you're at Disney. So
that's right.
Take it for what it's worth. So let's walk over next door and talk a little bit about French Quarter. So French Quarter, very, very similar in price. You're looking about, I scrolled too far. See, here we go. There we go. About $374, about $374 a night there. So very, very close, kind of in that same range that we've been talking about, but a tiny bit higher. And again, these prices are like peak season, beginning of April, kind of time frame that we're looking here. So these are on the higher end. They again have standard rooms. All of the rooms at French Quarter are going to be 4 people standard rooms that you have there. 3 different food options. Again, at least one of those is a pool bar, and then you've got the main food court and they've got like a nightclub kind of space there. Beignets are there, so those of you that follow Kirk at Walrus Carp and you know about his beignets, those are at Port Orleans French Quarter. So that is something to consider if that's an important meal or snack for you to have on your trip. That is something as far as that goes. They only have one pool. So we mentioned that Riverside and French Quarter are kind of like sister resorts. So Riverside having 5 pools, French Quarter only having 1 pool. That may be something that you want to look into if you're debating if your family are big swimmers. something to consider. That main pool at French Quarter does have a really nice water slide that is like a big sea serpent that we stayed there last April, and my kids thought, again, that it was the coolest thing. So they enjoyed that. They were very sad this last trip when our pool did not have a water slide, and I was like, oh, no.
Oh, that's a bummer.
What have I done?
They don't have a lot of those. Do they have any at any of the values? I'm trying to remember.
None of the values. No,
None.
they're, yep.
Sad.
Yep. It is sad. It's very sad.
I
So
couldn't
something
just put
to
in a slide
consider.
for the kids. Come on, Disney.
I know, right? Come
Just
on.
one.
I convinced them that it was really cool that because we stayed at All Star Music and their main pool was Three Caballeros themed, which my kids love that ride. So like that helped, but it still wasn't quite the same. So yeah, still not quite the same. Amenities, again, kind of same as what we talked about with Riverside. They've got the horse-drawn carriage, the Surrey bikes. I did forget to mention at Riverside, but they have at Riverside and at French Quarter both where you can do boat rentals for fishing in the river. So if that's something that you want to partake in on your vacation, that is something that they offer. Yes, Allie, for the kids. For the kids. For the kids. Yes, exactly. So again, all the amenities are shared across the two resorts, as well as same transportation options with the boat to Disney Springs and buses otherwise. This resort doesn't feel quite as spread out, I feel like, as Riverside, and you don't have to maneuver the water and the bridges quite as much. It's a little more standard kind of, thank you. A little more standard as far as that goes, not quite as tricky to maneuver around for the buses and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, they just have one main bus stop in the front, but the downside is they share it with Port Orleans Riverside. So you might be first on the bus, you know, like it's a little better bus situation because you tend to be like, you know, the way that it goes. I think it's first on and last off, but I'd have to, it's been a while since I've stayed at French Quarter. So,
yeah, and we didn't take the buses.
But you do share.
We drove, so.
Yeah. But you do share with all of those 4 stops over in Riverside. So just take that into account. And for me, I really love buildings 2 and 5, which are right next to the pool. You can kind of see them on either side of the pool there, and they're within walking to the lobby. Again, it's not a very big resort though, so it's like not the end of the world if you get any of the others. This one's way smaller than the other ones.
Yeah, we stayed like right smack dab in the middle of building 2 when we stayed, and it was like perfect. You know, we were super close. We could walk out to like the river area when we were looking to do boats. We could walk to the main building for food and, you know, that type of thing. So it was a really good location in building 2.
And I have just a little story of the lobby, which I'll show this first, and then I got to go back to my notes. But one little thing I love about the lobby is that it does have the names of like steam boats or paddle wheel boats from New Orleans on it. And one of them is the Natchez, the steamer Natchez, which I actually been on in New Orleans. But it is one of the boats that inspired the Mark Twain and Liberty Bell. So it is like it's kind of a fun connection to the original one that's in Disneyland. Let me get back to my notes. But the lobby itself is themed. It's themed after the Port Orleans Mint, as located the commercial building of New Orleans Square. So it was a commercial bank from the 1800s, and on the front of the registration desk, I think it's the front. There's musical staff notes that if you read them, it's the classic tune "When the Saints Go Marching In," which I think is a really fun little thing to look for. And they also have that big, like, giant, like, wooden fan that fans from the ceiling, which is like one of my favorite details. I don't think it actually does much, but it kind of just brings you back to a time when those did something. I don't know. But I love the theming in there. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I think that actually was not French Quarter. Now that I'm thinking about that, that wasn't French Quarter lobby. I think that's Riverside lobby. I'm sorry. I put it into the wrong section. You're right.
I know. I was trying to think.
I copied and pasted. I'm like, wait a minute. Sorry, everyone. Still, same area.
Rewind.
Just go on. So, gosh, I copied and pasted under the wrong section, so my brain put it in the wrong spot.
Well, and when you walk right inside at French Quarter, they've got that fountain.
Yeah, that's when I was like, this isn't adding up in my head.
You're like, wait a minute. Yeah, so when you walk into French Quarter, they've got like a really nice round fountain in there, and all that type of stuff. And then they've got, a lot of you have probably seen in videos or on the stream, they've got the alligator statues at French Quarter as well. Yes.
This is French Quarter. I
That
promise.
is French Quarter. Too many resorts, both coasts, all of that.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
I haven't been there. I think Elliot and I stayed there for our 3rd wedding anniversary. And now we've been married since 2006. So, 16 years.
Right.
So, it was a long time ago. That's my excuse.
It's all good. It's all good. It's all good.
Oh, gosh.
Well, the thing that's so interesting to me about the French Quarter lobby is that it doesn't feel like when you walk into like the value resorts, those types of lobbies, they're big and open, but it's very small, and very kind of like, you've got like the check-in desks on the one side and you've got the fountain in the middle. Then you literally are like right into Scat Cats, which is one of the food options there. And then like Sassagoula Float Works, I think, is the other one. So it doesn't feel like you're walking into like a hotel lobby. It feels a lot more themed and kind of tucked away little nooks and things like that, which I really, really liked about that resort. It's probably my favorite resort that I've ever stayed in.
Yeah, beignets and the live jazz music too. Like that,
Yes.
it just gives the whole feel of the place. It's not just, piped in music. It's actual musicians playing the music, which I love.
Yeah, and they've recently expanded. They're doing it like almost every night throughout the week, I feel like. It used to be only like 1 or 2 nights, and now they've really expanded that. So that's a really nice added bonus that you can go enjoy some live music and have some beignets, have a drink,
We're really
those types
pushing
of
the
things.
beignets here. Like, if you go there and don't have beignets, I don't know what's going on with that.
No, you got to try them at least once. You got to try them at least once.
Oh gosh.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
that's pretty much it, I think, for French Quarter. Yeah.
Yes. I was just going back over our notes to make sure that we got everything, I feel like. Okay. I stayed at Riverside. Yes. Yeah, Allie, they're really great. Where's the French Quarter? I don't, Kirk. That sounds more like you, Mr. Every Week Beignets. They know you by name when you walk in most of the time. So
I would wear those ears though, the ones that have the little beignets on them. Those ones are
cute.
so cute.
Yeah,
say,
those
like-
ones flew off the shelves, though. I feel like that every time everyone's like, oh, they're in stock, then like within the next day they're gone again.
Gone.
Just gone.
Oh well.
All right, let's move along, shall we? Our next resort that we've got on the list here is, and now, okay, do you say Caribbean Beach or do you say Caribbean Beach? Which way?
Now I don't know because you just like Caribbean. I think I say it Caribbean, but it's Pirates of the Caribbean,
Right.
but it's Caribbean Beach.
I usually say Caribbean Beach, so
I've
if
never
we're wrong,
thought
we're
about
wrong
it.
together.
Caribbean Beach. I feel like we all say that though. I haven't heard anybody say it's Caribbean. I have to like think about it. Caribbean Beach.
Caribbean Beach.
I feel like we should take a poll.
Either way. Either way, let's talk about that resort. On average, you're looking about $379 a night. So if you're keeping tabs, the lowest end of that moderate level we talked about was around $338 a night. So we're at around $379. So they're literally all within a pretty close range. Okay. All right, cool. We're doing good. Mostly everyone in the chat agrees with us. So they've got a couple different, where am I at? There we go. Sorry. I scrolled again. This is my own fault. So standard rooms fit 4 people. In those rooms, they do also have the 5th sleeper pull down rooms like we talked about previously in Coronado. So that is an option that they have here as well. They've got 4 different food options, 6 pools. One of the pools has 2 different water slides, which is
I have pictures.
even better than one pool with 1 water slide. And then the 5 other pools are considered leisure pools. So they've got that going. Oh, look how pretty that picture is with the water and everything.
I know, it makes me want to stay there, and I'm staying there.
So this, from
I
what
like
I've
this one
seen
too.
out, I have never stayed here, never visited here, but from what I've seen from the Skyliner and just maps, it is a very, very large resort.
Oh, I have stayed here, and a bridge was closed when I stayed, so I
Oh,
carried.
no.
It was a tough time. It's a 45-acre barefoot bay. It's shaped like a foot.
Yeah,
Is what you walk around, and it's
yeah,
massive.
yeah.
And if we're talking about size, the reason that it's so big is it was when it was made. This was the Disney's first affordable family option when it opened in October 1st, 1988. So they had like, the Contemporary and the Poly, and like they had the Grand Floridian. They had like all these other like very expensive resorts. This one was like for the families. So when they opened it, it was the fifth largest hotel complex in the U.S. So it was big, and it's
That's
still big.
crazy. And
It's
that was
still
only
very
in
large.
1988. Like, that's not
Yeah.
like it was that long ago. Like,
No.
that is insane to think about.
Yeah, and it was. I love this quote from Wing Chao, who's the vice president of Disney Developing Company. They said, "A hotel is an extension of the guest experience. When they leave the Magic Kingdom, they can continue their fantasy at their accommodation. We want the theming to be so pervasive that guests feel like they're walking onto a movie set." Which is, again, like I'm saying about the Disney bubble, like you are still in the magic when you go, but like it's very, very heavily themed. And I would say this one definitely makes you feel like you really are in the Caribbean for a lot, like there's that more relaxed feel to it. Sometimes you're relaxing is because you're walking very far from one part to the other.
And you need to relax when you get there.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and you can see in the pictures that you showed, the colors are all, what you would picture to be kind of that color scheme of beach, beachy vibes and those types of things. So all of the different sections are themed around different like islands in, I'm going to say in the Caribbean that you would find. I lost track of where it was. There we go. So some of the amenities that you can find here that I thought were interesting is they've got sand volleyball courts, which is something different that not every resort has. So if that's something that your family enjoys doing, that is something to consider. They do have fishing and hammocks, which is, again,
I don't have the hammocks, but I got the pool.
Yeah, that relaxing feel. But yeah, there's the main pool that's got the water slides around it. The pool always looks like it reminds me of Little Mermaid, just because of the way that like the buildings are shaped around the outside.
Yeah, it really does look like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of more of like a pirate themed, like,
Yeah.
Port Royal feel to it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the Aruba building is particularly far from the main building, Kristen. Yes, I agree. But Aruba is close to the Riviera Skyliner, which
Yes.
we haven't mentioned. That is, I think, the only reason that I would choose to stay here, because it's so much walking, is because of the Skyliner, like I showed in the pictures, is based on, I think I have it on the map. You can see where it is. It's kind of down south here on this side. That's the Skyliner station.
Yep.
And it is a game changer for this resort,
Yeah.
I believe. And
Absolutely.
also the fact that the Riviera is so close and you can walk to it, because it's at the toes over there is the Riviera, and you can go there and their food is amazing. I've stayed at the Riviera twice and I loved it. And it's a gorgeous resort. So sometimes I stay, if my budget allows, I'll stay in the Caribbean, but I'll go hang out in the lobby of the Riviera.
Right.
Because it's just, just the vibes. But I do love the
for
hammocks.
sure.
The hammocks are something.
It's
Like,
a
the
nice
hammocks
touch.
are lovely.
So it is definitely like the beach vibes when you go to Disney. So if you're looking for a little bit of both, maybe, then this resort may be one that you consider, because it's got kind of that beach feel and the pools and the sand volleyball and the hammocks and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and so in terms of where you want to stay, like they said, Aruba is pretty far from the main area, which is Old Port Royal, and you will be hiking pretty far to get there. So that's why I say if you're taking the Skyliner, you can go walk over to Riviera. Honestly, you can walk over there and use the buses from there too, because there's no rule that you can't use a bus from any particular place in Disney property just because you're not staying there. So if I was staying in Aruba, especially at the end of Aruba, which is here near the top, this is Aruba. I would walk this way and go to the Riviera. There's the Skyliner station, and you can go and then take the buses in the front of the lobby of the Riviera. That's what I would do. Otherwise, usually Jamaica is the place I would recommend staying, and either the 51, which is, I can't do this backwards. I'm like, how do I do this? It's kind of like near the bridge here. Oh, you can't see it. The bridge here that goes over the island. Or there's another bridge that's further south. That's kind of like the road. It's a road, actually. It's a bridge road. But this one down here. But I would recommend the one that's closer to the island because it gets you faster over to Old Port Royal.
Right, and depending on what you're doing for food and things like that, it may be more important for you to be there, or again, like Kate said, you can hop over to Riviera and use they've got a really great quick service restaurant on the bottom level of that resort as well. So definitely some options there, but again, that layout is something, again, like we talked about with Riverside, that you're really going to want to pay attention to make sure that you are requesting to be in the areas that you want to be in.
Yeah, I thought I had a picture of the inside, but I apparently did not save it, so that's where we're at now.
So speaking about the Skyliner, just want to make sure that everyone's aware that the Skyliner does not take you everywhere that you need to go on property. So even though you have the Skyliner, if you're trying to get to Magic Kingdom or you're trying to get to Animal Kingdom, you're still going to have to take a bus. So Kate mentioned, depending on where you are, it may be closer to go to Riviera to use their buses or not. So that would be for Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom. If you are going to Hollywood Studios and Epcot, that's when the Skyliner is going to be your friend.
Yeah. Thank you for
and a lot of the
that.
time. Yeah. And I just wanted to make sure most of the people that we've got in here, I feel like know that, but just in case, or if you're listening to our podcast and you don't know, now you know. That way you make sure that you're not kind of stranded and you know that you're getting where you need to go. The other thing you need to consider is that a lot of the times those Skyliner resorts will not even have a bus option. So let's say you're super far away from the Skyliner, but you want to go to Hollywood Studios, you're still going to have to make that walk over to the Skyliner station, because unless there's inclement weather, chances are good they're not going to have any buses running to those Skyliner parks. So again, make sure you plan accordingly. Put in your requests.
If there is inclement weather, they might close down the Skyliner for a while until it's safe to operate them. So that's also something to watch out for, those afternoon thunder showers. You might not be able to get back to your resort really fast on the Skyliner like you were planning. So just kind of have that in the back of your mind. They may not be running. They'll still have transportation. They'll do buses in that case. They'll always have a way for you to get back to your resort. But just be aware that is an issue that happens with the Skyliner. And, I get questions a lot about the Skyliner because some people are really kind of scared to use it. And the biggest questions that I get, and I'll go really quick because I know we got a lot else, other things to cover. But that people say, like, first of all, like, is it scary for people who are afraid of heights? I'm like, that really depends on your own personality and like how much you're afraid of heights. I feel like my daughter's pretty afraid of heights, but she actually found it really fun and she wasn't scared. So that is, it depends on you. And do they get really hot? Pretty rarely. There's a lot of air movement through them when you're moving. Only if you're stopped for a really long time, it starts to get a little bit warm in there, but not so bad that I don't feel like, I'm kind of a claustrophobic person and it's never really bothered me. So, take that for what it is. But there's a lot of air that moves through it, so I've never felt very hot on those. So I feel like
the only issue that I've heard of people who maybe were okay with the heights that got a little nervous is sometimes those cars on the Skyliner come really fast into the station before they stop. So just be prepared for that. The first time I remember we did it, we were like, oh, that was, like, okay. Because we also went on it very early on when, like, it initially went months and months and months and months ago, there were crashes of the cars and they would run into each other. But that hasn't happened, as far as I know, in a really long time. They have fixed a lot of those issues. But the first time we went on it, we were staying at Pop when we went on it, and it was like one of those things where we're like, okay, I really hope we stop.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little exciting. So if you want a little adventure in your world, that is there.
There it is.
And, but I feel like for the most part, I've always felt pretty safe on there. You just, have to weigh how you feel about it personally. And then if it's not your thing, you can always drive, or you can choose to stay at a resort that doesn't have a Skyliner. So
yeah. Or if you want to splurge, they've got, Lyfts and Ubers and minivans and all those types of things.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
So those are always options as well.
Mm-hmm. Or a monorail resort, which we haven't gotten to. That'll be next time.
Yes. Join us next week. No. So the last, we've got, Kate,
I've got one more.
Yep, yeah. Go ahead. I was just going to say.
Kind of a fun little fact. I actually didn't know this until I was researching for this. Until 1997, guests could purchase jewelry that was handcrafted from 370-year-old silver coins salvaged from the Spanish galleon that sank off the coast of Florida in 1622. Each piece of jewelry was then struck directly from a piece of 8, recovered from the shipwreck site, and came with a certificate of authenticity, which actually is really interesting because they used to do that in Disneyland too. They had, they made from pieces of 8, I don't know if it was jewelry back then. I'd have to look. I think they just made you a piece of 8 that had metal in it from a real Spanish galleon. So that was something they actually took from Disneyland Resort, and then they ended up doing it there. And I don't think that they haven't done it since 1997, which is kind of a bummer. Maybe they ran out, but
right, like they may have found all that they could find from
that one
1622.
They should have thought about that. Maybe ration it out a little more. Get like this much of it.
Oh, that's cool, Christina. They still have a lot of stuff like that in Key West. Yeah, that makes sense. Very, very cool.
It is moved into Key West.
Yeah, there you go. Ship it in from Key West up to Orlando. Make that happen. Come on, Disney. Give us back the cool stuff.
Yeah. It's funny.
All right. So I've got one more resort to mention here in the Disney World side of the moderate level. Now, again, this is going to be one of those that I feel like it sits on the border between the moderate and the deluxe, because these are the cabins at Fort Wilderness. So Disney considers this to be a moderate level resort, but you're looking at an average of about $577 a night. Again, in comparison to, we were just in the mid 300s, and now we're looking at $577 a night. The cabins do sleep 6 people. So keep that in mind if you're looking at needing a little bit more space. But again, you're going to pay a little bit of a higher price point for that. In comparison to the family suites at like Art of Animation, you're looking at, those are around $665 a night.
But these do have full kitchens.
Yep, I was going to say these are cheaper than that, and they do come with some extended amenities because you are legitimately in a cabin. So, yep, you've got that space there. That it could be a huge game changer, especially if you're someone who is fixing meals or, packing lunches or whatever it may be. That is definitely something to consider.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
You're fine. You're fine.
I feel like it would be really great for a family, especially that maybe has a food allergy or something, or they feel like they really need a space to prepare their kids' food that is, just not in a microwave, So, or if you're really just budget friendlying it, and you want to go back and actually prepare your meals and have a hot meal, not something you pack into the parks necessarily for one of your meals. I feel like it's a really budget friendly option in that way. I feel like it's still quite a bit per night. If you split it with like grandparents or something, you might be able to figure that out. But it does seem like a lot to pay.
Yeah.
Even though they're very cozy.
Yes, they are very cozy. And if that is a feel that you're looking for, that, that aesthetic is definitely something to consider. They've got a great little common area right there that Kate is showing. And unique features. They've got the full kitchen. They've got charcoal grills available. And private patio spaces for your cabins. So, you know, you really feel, excuse me, like you're kind of in the cabin in the woods. So definitely still, you know, in the Disney bubble, but kind of a different feel to the Disney bubble if you're there. You know, coming from some of the other resorts where you've got more Disney themed and Disney IP and that type of stuff, this is definitely a different vibe overall.
Yeah, but Kathy says to rent a golf cart, which is a game changer. That's what I've heard about Fort Wilderness, which I've, full disclosure, like I've stayed at a lot of the Disney hotels. I have not stayed there mainly because I live in the Pacific Northwest and I've camped and stayed in cabins everywhere in the West pretty much. And I'm like, if I'm going to go on vacation, I don't want to go stay in a place that looks like the Pacific Northwest. Just a personal thing.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't blame you for that.
I'm like, I'm going to go to a place, and it's like not even the Pacific Northwest because it doesn't have all the vegetation, right? Because it won't grow there. It's like cold weather stuff.
Right.
So, but I mean, it looks great. It's just like, and I have been through it. Elliot and I took a boat over to the Wilderness Lodge just to see it because it's a largely designed after several lodges, but one of the main ones is Yellowstone, which we actually went to Yellowstone last summer. So I wanted to see the differences between the two, and I got footage of both, which is kind of fun. I still need to post that, but it's it just it reminds me so much of the West, and I'm like, they did a great job capturing the West. It does feel that way. So if you're not going to make it to the West, you could stay there, and it's kind of close.
Right. You're like, I will take a different resort, please, and thank you.
Yeah. Katie says that's how she feels about Yacht Club. I don't need a New England feel. Yeah. You're like, you're going there to get away.
Right. Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about Fort Wilderness and kind of what that resort has to offer. It is definitely a resort that has a ton of amenities and a ton of things to do. So if you're looking for, maybe you don't want to do the parks every single day, or you're looking for an extended stay where you've got several resort days or whatever your kind of schedule may be, definitely something to consider. They've got 6 different options for food, one of them being the infamous Hoop-Dee-Doo Review dinner show. So that is over in that space if that's something that you're looking at doing. They've got 2 different pools. One has a water slide. So again, that theme of the water slides at those moderate levels is definitely something that continues through here. All sorts of amenities. They've got all kind of your standard set amenities, but then they've also got a campfire sing-along with Chip and Dale. There's archery. They've got the Tri-Circle D Ranch there with all of the horses that pull the carriages at Magic Kingdom or do any of the parades, those types of things. All those horses are over there. They've got horse-drawn carriages. They've got pony rides. They've got wagon rides. They've got fishing. They've got kayak and canoe rentals. I'm literally just reading this list, and it's just crazy. They've got basketball courts, volleyball courts. They've got
you
outdoor
could stay
movies,
there for like a whole week and still not do all that stuff.
All of the above, yes. So tons and tons and tons and tons to do out there. Like I think it was Kathy said, so much to do when you're there. So, you know, you've got to plan accordingly if that's something that you want to do. If you're someone that's like, well, we want to stay there because we want to do all these extra things, well, give yourself plenty of time to do them because there is a lot on that list.
Like a couple resort days.
Yeah. Again, I just literally listed them off of the Disney website and didn't even like go into detail about anything on there. So just so much that you can do as far as that goes. And then transportation, they've got just buses out there. So not looking at any other options other than
buses. You can take the bus to the Wilderness Lodge pretty easily. They're kind of like, they all have their own little transportation between the two, and it's pretty easy then to take that and go the boat to Magic Kingdom from the Wilderness Lodge. But you do have to take like a bus to that and then the boat. But it's pretty much just buses. That's your way out, or drive.
Right. Yeah, those are going to be your options for transportation there.
Question about if you camp, is that moderate or value? The camping prices are significantly less, I would say. But they're not like legit camping prices. Like, it's still Disney camping prices. It's not like $25 a night. I want to say it's $100 and something a night to camp.
I saw that question that Megan asked and I pulled it up. So if you're looking
on it.
if you're looking again, well, you were talking, so I was like,
I know.
let me click away here. So if you're looking at just like a straight up campsite room for a pop-up camper or camper van type vehicle, or up to 2 tents, it says it's around $166 a night.
166. I told you.
Now, again, that
you
is
still get all those amenities.
Yep,
too.
and again, that is peak season, first week of April. Again, like I said, so again, that's a little bit on the higher end. You can probably get it for cheaper. If you're looking for a full hookup campsite, and forgive me, I know very little about camping. It says room for an RV plus a tent, accommodates equipment on a concrete pad, 10 feet by 50 feet with a sewage hookup. You're looking at a $205 a night.
So a value, a little more than a value.
Yeah.
Take your RV.
Kind of in that value area.
But I mean, it would be fun experience to camp there once. But I would not do it in a tent. I cannot fathom coming back from a long day at the Disney park and then sleeping on the ground. I can't.
No, you gotta have some sort of padding there.
No. And I like to camp. I do. We go camping here because it's, I live in the Pacific Northwest and that's what we do is we camp. But it's it's just, no, for me, it's a no.
It's a no.
But it's nothing against anybody who loves that and wants to have that experience. I'm just like, I can't even think about that. Yeah. I need a bed. Yeah. Yes, I need a bed.
Yeah. Yeah. Kathy says I've seen it be $80 depending on when you go. Yeah. So again, like I said, these prices are more peak season prices if you're going to be going during fall break, spring break, those types of things. So keep that in mind. If you're able to go during off season or that type of thing, you would hopefully be able to find that for cheaper. But again, you're still returning back to a camper or a tent or that type of thing. So if that's your vibe, go for it.
Yeah.
And like Kate said, you still get all the amenities of everything that, if you were to stay in a cabin, everything that they have to offer as well.
Yeah. And there was kind of an interesting story that I read, and I did not review it before this, but I will say that there used to be some really weird thing that was at Fort Wilderness that was a lawnmower that was stuck in a tree because the tree actually grew around the lawnmower. And it was there for years and years and years, and people were watching it just kind of grow with the tree, up the tree. And it was there for a very long time. I think that they had to take the tree down for safety because the tree died eventually. But kind of a weird Disney history moment is the lawnmower that used to be in the tree. And if anybody remembers that, chime in because it sounds like I'm making it up. I promise I'm not.
Okay. So I had to Google it because why not, right?
It's really obscure.
There are several articles.
Is there a picture?
I'm trying.
Okay. I should have.
Okay,
sorry,
so there's a sign that used to be there. The lawnmower tree. Too long did Billy Bowlegs park his real slow mower. Alas, one warm and sunny day aside a real fast grower. Okay, hold on. I gotta find. I'm looking.
I know. I'm like, where's a good? Looks like they kept the stump from it.
Yes, that's all I'm finding is just the stump of it.
Because they had to cut down the tree. Oh yeah, it's
roughly
a terrible picture.
2007. Roughly 2007. Just a few rusting blades were still visible at the foot of the tree. Oh my gosh.
It's not a great picture, but you can kind of see it there.
Yeah. Disney Legal determined that the rusty remains provided a possible safety issue since guests sometimes would go up and touch the parts of the lawnmower. So they hired an outside contractor to quietly remove the tree in late October 2013 without alerting the guests. The tree was so well known that it was listed in the earliest Birnbaum official guide to Walt Disney World as a point of interest worth hunting down and continued to be listed into the 21st century editions. This is Jim Korkis's website that I'm reading this off of.
Yeah.
The Disney company itself promoted the lawnmower tree as a fun fact on official handouts to the media and appeared on the earliest campground maps.
What? So, the lawnmower tree. I should do a TikTok about that. I feel like people don't know. Enough people don't know about the lawnmower tree.
Yeah, because that is crazy. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, you can kind of see just a tiny piece of it here. It's just kind of like in
and that's
the
what
tree.
they were saying. It was like just the blades at the bottom that could be seen. Yeah, that's the same one that I can find. That is crazy. Please do a TikTok about that because now I really want to know.
Yes.
Now I really want to know. Oh, they had peacocks, Kathy? Interesting.
Peacocks on Fort Wilderness. In Fort Wilderness. I hadn't heard that. I feel like they had that in some other resort. I'm trying to remember which one.
I don't know. Opening day 1971, the campsite prices were $11. Yeah, Christina, that
makes more sense.
That makes a lot more sense than $166.
Still camping. Even like the KOA is not $166. Oh gosh, I know. If you go glamping, I'd have to have a glamping situation in order to do that. And even then, I wouldn't for Disney personally, but I could go for some good glamping. I'd be up for that. It was a riding lawnmower. It wasn't a riding lawnmower. It was definitely like an old school push. I think it was like a push mower. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just got tired and leaned it up against a tree and forgot about it. And the tree ate it.
There it sat for the tree ate it. Oh my goodness. See, look, this is the lovely history and fun facts that you get with Kate. About discussing random.
Can't start it off.
Hey, we are all here for it. I love it. Oh my goodness, too funny. So that wraps up the Disney World section of the moderate levels. So 5 total that we talked about as far as that goes. So let's hop coasts and go to Disneyland and hear what Kate has to tell us about their moderate options.
Yeah, so it's hard to pick moderates. Like, where do you draw the line for this? Because there's no official guide. I would consider, like we said, all of the Disney hotels that are on the West Coast in Disneyland pretty much are just deluxe, just based on their prices alone. I would not call them all deluxe. I'd say that the Paradise Pier one is actually a bit more of a moderate, but I'm going to leave it in the deluxe setting because its prices are firmly there. So let's talk about Disneyland. I have not stayed in all of these, but I've done really extensive research on them. So I feel pretty confident in recommending these. The one that I feel like everybody mostly knows about is the Hojo, the Howard Johnson. It's about a 10-minute walk from the main gate. So this is like not like the entrance to Disney property, the actual physical main gate of Disneyland and California Adventure, because it's right behind you. It is a 10-minute walk, which is probably like a block, maybe a block and a half. It feels a lot longer at the end of the day. It's actually, I consider it a fairly long walk at the end of the day with littles. But it is a stellar hotel. Really, you do get a Magic Key discount. Not that most of you necessarily would be Magic Key holders, but there is a Magic Key discount for it. And they have a really great water park on property for kids. So I'm recommending this one for families. They have a fabulous little water park setup for them that is so great for the afternoons or any time of day if you just want to take a day off there. They have rooms their basic rooms are themed kind of Mickey Mouse. So they feel like they're Disney when you stay there, which not all places around Disneyland do. So I love that for littles. They do have rooms with bunk beds. And where was I? They have rooms with bunk beds. And then they have another, I have more pictures for these themed rooms are really fun that they just came out with fairly recently. Where'd it go? They have one that is Pirates of the Caribbean themed. It's a little more kind of old school pirates. So they have a Pirates of the Caribbean themed room. And then they have my favorite is the House of the Future. Monsanto House of the Future. So it's this little Disney history there. Very retro themed with the windows look like their House of the Future. So I love that option for a room too, but I think it's a suite. I just haven't looked into the pricing specifically of those rooms, but for the price for these, I'm sorry, I should have started with that. I kind of I missed your note about peak season. So it's kind of just averages about $300 per night, give or take, depending. And Yeah, Becca stayed at the Hojo. Most people I know, when they go to Disneyland, they tend to stay at the Hojo, especially with kids. It's just, it's a really solid bet. It's going to get a great stay, very clean, very safe, but it is a little bit of a walk. So, and it's on Harbor Boulevard.
When you're considering the fact that if you're staying at a Disney resort, you may have a 10-minute walk from the bus to your room. So
yeah, and in even the Disneyland hotels are at least a 10-minute walk, maybe a little bit less, I guess, for the Grand Californian, but even then you have to kind of, depends on where you are. But the Disneyland hotel is like all the way down at the end of downtown Disney, so it's like a 10-minute walk in itself. So it's not
pretty much what you're going to get.
Yeah. And so some of the other amenities they do have microwaves and fridges in their room, and they have free Netflix streaming service. So that's always a win, I think, as a parent to have that.
Yeah.
If you don't have it already for yourself. Yeah.
Right.
So the Hojo is one of them. I also found a room that looked like it might have been a tiki room themed room, but I have to confirm that. So there might be some more themed rooms than just the two I know about. Just going to throw that out there. One of the other ones I found that I haven't stayed at, but I'd recommend, it's near the Hojo, but it's a little closer. It's a 9-minute walk, and it's called the Courtyard by Marriott Theme Park Entrance is the name of it. Courtyard by Marriott Theme Park Entrance. It's an average of about $287 per night, so it might be a little bit cheaper than the Howard Johnson, depending on when you go, what time of year. It does have something I thought was amazing. They have an on-site cafe called the Bistro where they serve Starbucks. So that might be a game changer for you if you really just want your coffee in the morning. And it's kind of near a Panera Bread too. There's a McDonald's and a Panera Bread that are pretty nearby. So a couple of options for eating.
Helpful.
Yes, food options are great. Some have private balconies, all have microwaves, and some of them, I think I have a picture, some of them have even theme park views because it's kind of on the, I would say, northern side of the park. So if you see this one, has a view of the Matterhorn out the window of the room.
So cool. I want that.
I know. I think you have to pay a little bit more for
that
those.
one specifically, please.
I know. But most of them would. There's even the monorail, if you can see in that picture. The monorail's going in front of it too. So you can see the monorail go by, which would be so fun with kids. I think that is a great option. And the rooms themselves looked very clean. And they did have their own water park, which actually looks really fantastic for kids. Like, I kind of want to take my kids
a good
here.
Size. Yeah. Victoria says the Courtyard is great, but the weekends can get pricey.
Yeah. So don't go on the weekend, which I'd always recommend anyway. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, Disney World is that way too. They always hike up their prices on Saturdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, pretty much. So
when Disneyland, if you don't go on the weekends, a lot of the locals go in the evening and the weekends. So if you go in the mornings on the weekdays, it tends to be less crowded. Not always because of, people still on vacation, but but yeah, that one seemed like a really great option. The rooms, I do have a picture of the rooms too. And I think some of them, they were the only one that I found that was nearby that had 2 queens and a bunk bed. So you could have like 6 people. So if you have a bigger family, that might be a really good option for them, is that bigger suite.
Nice.
So that is the Courtyard by Marriott. And then these ones are a little bit cheaper, but they're also like I said, the older remodeled kind of motels, which there's a ton of those around Disney because Walt Disney himself could not buy up all the property around Disneyland because he was out of money. So all these companies came in and bought all the land around it and developed all these little motels because that's what you did in the 50s. So there's a ton of these
style.
Yeah. So there's a ton of these renovated motels, and some of them are better than others. But one of my favorites to stay at is the Parkview Inn, which is 6-minute walk from the main gate. It's literally across the street from the entrance to get into the plaza. You take 50 steps across the street and you're on Disney property. It is ridiculously close. I would say this is a better hotel for maybe older kids or teenagers. If you're not going to spend a lot of time in your hotel, but you want a clean and safe place to sleep and eat or sleep and shower, and you do want a pool. They have a pool in their parking lot. It's kind of surrounded by bushes, so you don't see the cars. But they have, and it's gated, but But I think it's a great option. You can still see the fireworks from the second balcony at night. You can see them because they're across the street. And it's, but it's older, you know, so it's clean and it's renovated, but it's older. So you just kind of go in with that expectation. It's about $215 on average at night, depending on the season. So it's a little bit more affordable than some of those other options that I just mentioned, and it's way closer. You can see in this picture, this is from like the balcony of it. You can see right across the street is Disney. That's the monorail right across the street. And then, I have a picture of the rooms somewhere. They're very basic rooms, but they're clean, safe.
Right.
So we stayed there a lot, and they do have a family suite which we just stayed in when we did our Grand Canyon trip, and it has 2 queen beds in one room, and then it has a second room that has a full kitchen and, or mostly full kitchen. I think it's a little smaller fridge, and then a pull-out couch, so it sleeps 6. So it was a great option for us. So that's the Parkview Inn. I want to say
Parkview Inn. Parkview Inn is the one that Kate's talking about right now.
Yeah, and it's VUE, and it's not one that will show up in like most searches for things. It's kind of one you have to go to their website to book, but it's legit. So it doesn't show up on like Expedia or like any of those like cheap motel sites. It won't show up there. It's just like for whatever reason they don't list there. Yeah, but it is a great one to stay at, and I think I've stayed there like probably 20 times by this point. I just like it because it's so close. And then they also have parking included. So if you do drive or you drive from the airport, parking's included until 10 p.m. on your day of checkout. And parking is very spendy in that area. So that is worth its weight for that. So, and then the last one I was going to mention after that is called the Candy Cane Inn. And if anybody knows the Candy Cane Inn, it's probably with a lot of like, we love the Candy Cane Inn. It's an institution. It's been there, I don't know, just a million years, 60-some years.
It's like, million years.
It's been there for a very long time, almost as old as Disneyland. It is an 11-minute walk from the main gate. It's down it's like if you're on Harbor Boulevard, like this is like the entrance to Disney. This will be like the Parkview Inn here. It's down on this side and it's a little bit longer of a walk, but they do have a free shuttle that's actually pretty good. So there's a shuttle option there. And they have what they call a garden oasis heated pool, which I love. I love the styling. See, I feel like I had a picture of it, but it's it's not a great picture, but it just, they have all these like hanging vines and garden aesthetic.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
It's like in the middle of their parking lot too, but they've hidden it with all the plants.
I feel like
and vegetation.
That's kind of the norm in places like that though, where like they have to stick it along the side of the building and it ends up being right up against the parking lot. Yeah.
It's a little bit more like vintage grandma's house. It is renovated.
But you're so right. It's like 100% like, yeah.
Yep. It is renovated and it's clean. It's just like it's got that older vintagey.
It's purposefully
aesthetic.
Vintage, new but vintage, something like that.
So I think, and it's got an amazing buffet, which I don't have a picture of, but there's a continental breakfast and a buffet.
Old lady vibes. It does look like someone's grandma decorated.
Yeah. So, but people love it. And I think they've kept it similar to how it's always been because that's kind of its charm, is that it's not like all the super modern kind of like sterile places. It's very much this kind of, we have been this way forever and we're going to stay this way. And the breakfast is really, really good there. It's like very like a full continental breakfast. So if you want to save some money by not having to buy groceries or go out to eat for breakfast, that is a great option for the Candy Cane.
And that being included at $215 a night, that's pretty good, to have that option.
Yeah, and they don't have a resort fee, which is really nice, and parking is free. So there's a shuttle. I mean, so there's a lot of good, if you can get over the grandma vibe, or if you love the grandma vibe, it's a great option. They did just like close down to renovate for like a whole year, I think. For a long time they were closed to renovate. So I imagine, I haven't been there, so full disclosure, I haven't been there since I was 11, I think was the last time I stayed at that hotel. So it's been a long time. But I do remember it fondly. It was like, oh, the candy cane, and it sounded so good.
Right. It does. Like but I also feel like the rooms totally fit the name. Like,
yeah. Like
aside from it literally like
ribbon candy. It would be in the bowl.
Right. Does it smell like grandma? I don't know.
Think so. I doubt. I have not seen that in the reviews, but I don't know. But does it look the same as it did when I was 11? I have such vague memories. The pool looks the same, and I think the rooms are probably similar, but I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't think I have any pictures of it either.
Hopefully newly renovated means, new flooring, maybe some new bedding, maybe some new, that kind of thing. Hopefully is not still what it was in the 50s.
Unless it smells like
grandma's fresh cookies. That would be good. That would be good with a new smell. There you go. Yeah. So I think, was that the last one on your list, Kate?
Yeah, full disclosure, there are several other hotels that would absolutely make this list for moderates, but I would say I always go on what is clean and safe and close. Those are always my things. So I look for things personally on Harbor Boulevard because they're the closest walk. So that's why I've recommended these ones. I know that there's some that are on the other side of Disneyland that a lot of people do recommend. Feel free to drop them here or in our Mom Street Discord, because honestly, like, these aren't the be all end all. These are just ones that are solid that I know I can recommend for families in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what Kate and I are working on is kind of gathering all of the information that we have been just kind of throwing out in these resort episodes. And we're hoping to put them all together in a nice little neat infographic for you guys to have that we will be posting here within the next couple weeks or so, depending on how quickly we can get it done, because it's a lot of information, and it's a lot of numbers and all that. So we're going to do one for each level. So I know a lot of you were probably taking notes, but we are working on that. That is in the works for you guys as well. So we can get that information to you guys. That will hopefully be available on we'll put it in Discord. We'll put it on probably our Instagram, those types of things. So we'll be getting that out to you guys as soon as we get it done.
Yeah. I imagine a lot of it I'll probably make as Instagram stories that then we'll put in our highlights so that it'll be easy for you guys to access whenever you need to. Yeah.
Because especially I know if you're someone who's maybe used to Disney World and you're planning on a Disneyland trip, like I saw some people talking about in the chat, that is helpful for you, or vice versa. If you're used to land and wanting to come to World, gives you guys the option of kind of looking at what we know to be, like Kate said, clean, safe, close in Disneyland and just on property in Disney World. Now, in our value show, we talked a lot more about off-site in the value category. Those are really the ones that you're going to want to look at in Disney World. So we didn't really touch on any off-site in that moderate category, just because I feel like we really gave you guys a lot of really good, solid options with different configurations, with suites, with all of that kind of still in that value category. So if you're someone who's looking for that and didn't hear about many off-property options, or didn't hear about, we talked about Universal, we talked about all those types of things, pop back over to our value resort episode, because that is going to be that information that you're looking for there. And all of that information will be included on those infographics once we get those finalized for you guys.
Yep, absolutely. A Fairfield Inn by Disneyland is probably more equal to value than moderate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard with Disneyland because it depends on the season. Some of these will pop up into more of a moderate level during like the high peak seasons, but then there'll be more value. It's hard to say with Disneyland. And these are kind of arbitrary. We're like, well, this is kind of a moderate budget. This is kind of a value budget. I kind of went with anything that's under 200 was value, and then anything that's kind of 200 to 300 as moderate, and then anything above 300 I feel like is a little bit more deluxe. But
Right.
Unless you're on Disney property, then it's like 600 above the store.
Right. And that's the hard thing, is trying to figure out those categories, because when we looked at, all the way up through Art of Animation, your standard rooms are $315 a night in some seasons. So, at Disney World, you're looking at like 300 and under is value, and 300 to 500 is your moderate, so it really does vary. And it really just depends on what your budget is that you're looking for. And that's where, people that have been there before can help. People on the Discord can help. If you're using a travel agent, they can help. If you're not familiar with our Discord, there's a link in my bio and a link in Kate's bio for the Walrus Carp Pocket Fam Discord. Mom Street USA has our own channel on there, like Kate mentioned earlier. But there's also so many other really great channels that have tons and tons and tons of information, where you can ask questions, get information about planning trips of all shapes and sizes, West Coast, East Coast, all of the above. So that is a really great resource for you guys to utilize as well.
Yeah. Victoria, I'd say the Grand Californian is breaching 1K a night for some dates. It's very expensive, and that's why I always rent DVC points when I try to stay at the Grand Californian. And it's even with renting, it's pretty much out of my price range by now, which is very sad. And then, 400 a night is moderate. That,
right.
It's true. It's just kind of really gotten up there. And, and that's why I think Jacque and I are both very budget conscious people. We've got families, and cost of living's going up for all of us. So that's part of our goal here, is we know that everybody's kind of, in their own path and their own, tax brackets, so to speak. So we want to make sure we give options for wherever you're at, and whatever you enjoy on vacation, but we also want to give you options for going to Disney as cheaply as possible also. So we're always here with ideas for that. And I will also say that you might have noticed from talking about these hotels that there's a big price difference between Disneyland and Disney World. And sometimes Disneyland might be the cheaper option, even if you have to fly farther. So keep that in account if you really want to go to Disney, but you're like, Disney World's not in the budget right now. Maybe check out Disneyland. You might be really pleasantly surprised about how much you can afford for your money there versus Disney World. And I promise you will not be disappointed. It's not smaller or disappointing. It's amazing. So we'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. And that being said, if your heart is set on Disney World, then look at some of those options that we gave that were off property. When we looked at the cost of all of that, especially if you're someone who's going to be doing Universal as well, their resorts tend to be significantly cheaper than Disney World. So look at those options. And I'm sure there are, like Kate said, other options out in Disneyland as well. But we're trying to give you guys ones that we know are safe and, kind of in that price range as well.
I do love Disney World as well, guys. I see you guys saying, you can't tell Kate loves Disneyland. I do. It's my home park and it's the original, but I love Disney World as well. I've recognized taking my family there this last time, how expensive it is for my family versus, and I've also taken my family to Disneyland in the past year. I've taken my family to both, and the price difference is astronomical, like how much cheaper it was to go to Disneyland. So if you're missing Disney, but you just can't reach Disney World yet, Disneyland might be a really good option. That's all. Yeah. Not a pusher.
Yeah, for sure.
Just saying.
We got a couple questions here in the chat. So Bliss 2019, I just jumped in. What would be your favorite resort or room for Walt Disney World in January for a group of 6 for deluxe? So we haven't completely touched on the deluxe resorts yet. That will be our next episode, but we are happy to answer your question. Sure. Kate, I'm going to kind of defer to you because I am not knowledgeable about deluxe at all. As you mentioned, I am very budget conscious. So take it away.
The only reason I've stayed in them is because I have done DVC points. That's how renting DVC points is the only way I could afford any of those. So full disclosure. Yeah, I've stayed in most of them. I have not stayed in the Contemporary. And I love, for a group of 6, I don't know how old these people are that are in this group, but I would say if you love animals, Animal Kingdom's a really great option. It's almost the cost of a moderate a lot of the time. And there's animals literally, if you get a Savannah view room, there's animals literally right outside on your balcony. You can watch them. And it's an incredible, it feels like you're going to a whole nother place. It is a very amazing experience. So I recommend Animal Kingdom Lodge, except their transportation's only buses. That's the major downside of that one. But they have some amazing food there too. So I love that one. And if you want just kind of vacation vibes, the Polynesian's a great one, and it's on the monorail. So that one's another one I usually recommend. It's the Polynesian. It just very much feels like you're in Hawaii. So they got tiki torches that light up at night, and it's very close to a lot of transportation because it's close to the transportation and ticket center. So you can take the monorail a lot of places. And then the other one, I mean, we'll talk more about this in Deluxe, but I actually love the Riviera way more than I thought it would, because from the outside it looks really boring, but the inside is absolutely gorgeous. The food is really good, and it's right next to the Skyliner. So those are the ones that I would probably be leaning towards myself, but everybody's got their own opinion. So
yeah, I've not stayed, but I would agree Riviera and probably Polynesian would be my choices that I would say for that.
Youngest 9, and then 3 to 20s and grandparents. Yeah.
So kind of 3 20s and grandparents. Okay.
Yeah. So you probably could. You could go. Animal Kingdom maybe depends on if the grandparents want to stay in the room and like watch the animals. That might be really fun for them.
Yeah.
But Polly, I think, I agree. I would probably recommend the Polynesian for that age range. I feel like that's a good, solid recommendation.
Yeah. Mike, so we have not done a segment on DVC yet. Next week, thank you for the perfect segue. Next week, we are doing Deluxe Resorts and DVC. So that will be next week for kind of all of the information on that. What company do you use to rent? The only one that I know of is it Michael's? David's. I was like, it's a name. David's. It's a guy's name. Sorry. I have not done any research yet because that's next week.
Yeah, I do DVC. DVC Rental Store is my favorite, but I've also used David's, and both of them are pretty solid. David's is in Canada, so it's a little bit, sometimes they do conversion of money and things, so you pay a little transaction fee for that. I do like DVC Rental Store because you can actually make payments on it versus paying it all up front. So I feel like that to me gives it a little bit of an edge. And I've had really great experiences with them. But David's is good too. I've also had good experiences there. So.
Yeah, there you go. So next week, if you guys have more questions about DVC and Deluxe, bring them with you next week, because that is our topic for next week as we kind of move through all of the different resort options.
Christy doesn't show us Chubby.
What?
Chubby.
Oh, on my ears?
Chubby.
I got it. Okay, I'm not putting my face that close.
Ooh, there he is. He's so happy. His name so cute. Makes me happy.
I know. Well, and the fact that his name was not supposed to be Chubby, it was supposed to be Chubby, and they just mistyped it in an email.
And that's way better anway.
I know.
I'd rather be Chubby.
Christina, I did get the Chubby plushie, but it is currently in my daughter's bed with her. So, and she's
rip it out of her arm.
For the show. I am planning on doing a merch video of everything that we got on our trip, and he will be included in that. So stay tuned.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we do this same segment, same day, same time every week. So it is 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays and 6 p.m. Pacific. Mm-hmm. So depending on what time you're zoning in, because I'm in the West Coast and she's in Ohio. So we make it happen by doing kind of in between here. So same time every week. And we also have a podcast that's called Mom Street USA. So if you missed any of our previous episodes about value resorts or any other, we did some packing and planning for Disney. We have episodes about that. They're also up on our YouTube, Mom Street USA. Mm-hmm. You can give us a subscribe there. That would really help. But so if you can go back and see any of the episodes, and also we're on Instagram as well. So that's where we'll post some of these extra kind of infographic posts. So
yes, and you can find links to all of that up in our bios. They have Mom Street information up there. You can also find links to our store, which if I can, we've got our, there we go. Our little
my shirt
Mom
on.
Street stickers. Kate's got her shirt
Can't
on with
flip
our
it.
logo. We've got long sleeve and short sleeve, and also our lovely holographic, yes, they are very shiny, Victoria, stickers in the shop over there as well. My hair is like crazy now that I took those ears off. So you can find those over on Kate's website, DisneyCicerone.com, in the shop.
I don't know if it shows
well.
my link here because of this, the way we did this. So I don't know
either.
Yeah.
Well, for sure, they're all up in mine. So you can click on our merch through the Mom Street links in my bio and find Kate's website that way. She's also got some really great other merch on there from her show with Kirk, her Distery show, and just some other fun little Disney shirt designs over there as well. So make sure you look at those too.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm finalizing the Tiki Room one, and it's got a Barker bird on it. It's really cute, so I cannot wait to show everybody that one.
That's so exciting.
I'll premiere it hopefully on for Dis Story tomorrow, which if you love Disney history or loved any of the fun facts we talked about today, I have a live show with our friend Kirk from Walrus Carp tomorrow at 5:30 p.m. Pacific or 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We talk all about secrets in Disney history, and this week we're doing Pinocchio, the dark ride Pinocchio in Disneyland. So maybe some things that you don't know or haven't learned about Pinocchio, the dark ride. Come join us for that. It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I forget, I have another friend with me today.
Oh, yeah.
So if you have not followed our Instagram, be sure to head up to my profile and follow that, because on our Instagram page, we are giving away this lovely Zero popcorn bucket, which is just so cute.
Oh, it's so adorable. I kind of want that.
Yeah, and he does light up. I have not pulled the little tab out. I had to threaten my children when we were at Mickey's Not So Scary because they were like, "Look, it lights up," because they could see the other ones. And I was like, "Don't you pull that? Don't do it." But it's got a little. Literally a little pull tab to where his little nose lights up, and he's just so cute.
It's like Rudolph.
So check out our Instagram page if you want to be entered to win this popcorn bucket. Next week at the end of our show, we will be drawing the name for the winner of that. So if you want to be considered, head over to our Instagram, follow our Instagram, and comment on that page. That way or on that post, so that way you can be entered to win that. And the winner does not have to be here. I don't know that I said that in the post as I was thinking back about it, but we will contact you via Instagram if you do win.
Yeah. Yep. Fairy lights in it for display. That's a good idea.
That's a good idea.
I like that.
Oh,
idea.
Mike, you arrive at Pop tomorrow evening, cramming in all the info you can. Absolutely.
So exciting. Have a great trip.
Yes, enjoy your trip. So much fun. So much fun.
I just booked my trip for January, so I'm excited.
Yay! That's so exciting. So you've got November and January. Look at you.
Yes, I know. I don't just keep praying that everything's going to work out financially. I'm just
all going to work.
I'm just going to go. I'm going to book it, and it's just going to happen. That's where I'm at now.
Yeah, manifest it.
Speak it into existence.
Yes, exactly. And it will work. For sure.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So,
oh, Ray, packing for your trip tomorrow. So exciting. Have so much fun. I am hardcore feeling the Disney blues because we got home on late Saturday night. So
time to book another trip.
I know. I just don't know when, because we're
Thank you.
Right now our sights are, we want 2028 to be the year that we fly out to Cali to do Disneyland.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a far way away, but we also
2028. I'm like, how many years?
I know. So again,
6 years.
Yeah, no surprise here. I am a massive planner. And so I was looking ahead to okay, how old do I want my kids to be when they fly for the first time? Because that's a thing. I'm not a flyer. You guys all know I drive 14 hours to go to Disney World. I'm not a flyer.
Crazy girl. Crazy.
I'm not a flyer. So I had to think about how old I want my kids to be if we're going to fly. So they are, I mean, my youngest is 4 right now. So I figured 9 or 10 is probably a good age.
Okay. I'm just like, it's going to take you that long to save for that? I'm like,
no,
we need to start a collection.
I was like, I mean, if you're offering, but I will say we were looking at prices, and I literally said the same thing to my husband. I was like, wow, it is significantly cheaper than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting 10 grand, and like, that is not what we're looking at. But we also want to do like a couple different things in Cali while we're out there. So like, we've got to plan accordingly. And that's also, if we can time it right, I really would love to time it around the Summer Olympics, which is going to be absolute insanity, but I'm ready for it. Cause the Summer Olympics are in LA that year, and we are massive soccer fans. So trying to plan around being able to go to an Olympic soccer game would be just like the icing on the cake. So
fun.
Kind of that's why my crazy plan is for 2028.
That makes so much more sense now. Yes. And I'm like, girl, that's a long time. Like, go before then.
I know. So that's the plan. So yes, see, now 2028 makes sense. So we're trying to figure out how we want to space out our Disney World trips between now and then to be able to make it all work and not go like back to back, and be able to save in the meantime and all that jazz. So yes, that is why I don't know when we're going next.
It makes
very sad.
Mike asked how we ended up hooking up to make this podcast, to make this show happen, and that's well, it's really because of our good friend Kirk from Walt started doing these lives where he walks around Disney World, and we started hanging out in there individually, just like all the time, and then we became moderators, and then we kind of became friends because we're just in the same, what we call the Pocket Fam community. Internet friends, yes. We were in the Pocket Fam community together, which is just like when Kirk would put us all in his pocket because he had to do something and it got dark, and then we would party. So that's where that name comes from. And we just kind of became friends, and we just started talking more. And I think I was on a live, and I was just like, we need a place for like us to chat, that's just like about Disney stuff.
It was your last trip. I feel like that someone in the chat was like, hey, we need like a girl's perspective, because in our community we have a lot of male perspectives, which is totally fine, and we appreciate all the lives that they do and everything that they bring to us. But then Kate and I were like, we kind of do need that, and I feel like I have a lot of Disney World knowledge. Kate's got both Disney World and Disneyland, and we're both moms, so thus Mom Street USA was born. So here we are fairly new to our show. For any of you who maybe joined us tonight for the first time, this is, I think, episode 8. So about 2 months in. But our goal is just to help people plan their trips and make it easier for, parents traveling or non-parents traveling as well. We're pretty much here to help really anyone that needs help. So that's what we're here for. So we love when our chat asks questions that we can answer and help with. We love getting to help you guys and give those informational tidbits out to you. And again, if you guys have missed or want to catch up on any of our stuff, check the link in my bio. You can find our podcast. You can find our YouTube. You can find all sorts of stuff. You can find the Discord that way. If you want to join the Pocket Fam Walrus Carp Discord to get all that information, definitely check that out as well.
Yeah. And we really do appreciate, we say it all the time, but we always mean it. We appreciate all your guys' support in just being here with us. And it's honestly, this is a community effort. We always say we're stronger together with all the information we collectively know versus just me and Jacque. We do know a fair amount of things about Disney, but we don't know everything. And you guys really can bring all of those holes in our information together so that we can all help each other plan better trips, but also just be in community with each other and support each other and, cheer for each other, because that's what we're here for. So,
absolutely.
If you are going through something, or you're just like need a little bit of like a pick me up or somebody to like cheer you on, that's where our Pocket Fan Discord has some great channels for those kinds of things. If you're celebrating something, we want to celebrate with you. And we have our Mom Street channel on there. So if you're lost with planning or just want, just want to say hi, we're here, we're here for you guys. So.
Yep. You can also reach out to us on Instagram. You can reach out to our email, which is just momstreetusa@gmail.com. So tons of ways you can reach us if you just want to chat. My messages are always open on Discord as well. If you want to message me on there, I know several of you, we chat on Discord frequently. So I love that community that we have. And Mike, we're glad that you found us and that you're here. So thanks for joining us. Yeah, and absolutely.
I know Shelly asked, can you DoorDash to a Disney resort? And I think Victoria's right. Yes, you can, but I think you're supposed to meet them in the lobby. I think that's accurate as far as I know. I know when I've had my Amazon stuff delivered, usually like for that, the Bell services will usually take it for that, but not necessarily not for DoorDash, not for food. So,
right, absolutely. Especially with COVID, they've upped those restrictions a lot. I feel like that they need to. You used to be able to leave a lot more at Bell services, and they just don't anymore.
I know. So they kind of use that as their opportunity. Like, we don't have to do this anymore.
Right. Like, this is our way out. We can backpedal a little bit on there. Exactly. All right. Well, I think we have answered all of the questions. Oh, Shelly's got another one. How does ordering Amazon work? So Shelly, you would just order it to your hotel address. I almost forgot the word for that. It's late. It's late over here. With your name on it. And often, I think a lot of the times they have like options where you can enter like, I don't know that you can put room numbers in there because like you won't know before you go to, like, unless you're ordering it after you're already there. But you would want to put your first and last name on the order and maybe your arrival and all that kind of stuff, and then let the front desk know that you've got something coming. A lot of the times is what I do. I don't know that you need to do that, but
I don't think I have. I think the only thing is if you order any sort of alcohol, you have to pay. You have to be there to sign for it yourself because they can't. They can't be liable for that because they don't know who it's going to. So that is a situation where they would have you have to meet them in the lobby. But usually, if it doesn't have any alcohol in it, usually Bell Services will accept your order, and then they can even store it in like cold storage if there's cold things until you're ready for it.
Yeah, and Victoria makes a good point. She tries to order things under the name on the reservation so the front desk and security doesn't get confused. Yeah, so like if you're traveling with, parents or grandparents or whoever's name is the main one on the account, I would order it under there. That way they can for sure find you.
Yeah. I order from Amazon, like Amazon Fresh, I think does like 2-hour delivery windows. So you can order it even the day of. You can order the food that you want and it'll come. And we did a very thorough discussion of this when we did, I think it was How to Pack. Was it our How to Pack episode?
Yes, it was our second episode, our trip prep episode. We talked about grocery orders.
Yeah, yep, so there's a whole bunch more information there.
Towards the end of episode 2, Shelly, is what you're looking for. I've got our little list here pulled up of what we've talked about. That way I could find it. But yeah, towards the end of our second episode, Shelly will give you any other information. And if you've got questions still, Shelly, find us on Discord. I know that you're on there with us. So post in the Mom Street channel or send me a message or Kate a message, and we'll get you the information that you need.
Absolutely. Yep.
They just left it at the bell desk. Yep, Victoria, that sounds about right. All right. Now I think we've answered all the questions.
I think so. I love them, though. I love questions. It's great.
Yes, and we are more than happy to answer them. So if you guys have got them, please make sure you ask. We try to stop during our shows and make sure that we hit everything that we can, but we occasionally miss things. So again, Discord, Instagram, all those good ways to find us for sure. And again, on Instagram, your chance to win our little friend here. So hop on over there after we sign off here. And be sure to enter to win. We will pull that a week from now at the end of our episode next week, which is all on Deluxe and DVC resorts. And thank you again for joining us.
Great.
I think we've said that like 18 times, but we really do.
I know.
we really do.
We're that thankful.
We are. We are that thankful for you. So we will see you guys next week, and we'll see you on the lives in between then. Make sure you catch Kate and Kirk tomorrow for Distry. as she mentioned. But for now, we will end our episode and we will see you all later.
See you guys. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.